Today's movie is a special request from Patreon supporter C. Lone Tree, who asked me to review Dog Soldiers. Well, about time I did another werewolf movie. The last one I did was Silver Bullet.
The guy that's sitting there says, "Hey, why do you let him call you jackass all the time?" The bartender says, "Oh, he always calls me that."
This one may not have crazy Gary Busey, but it does have a dedicated cult following, which means it's about time I covered it. Dog Soldiers is a 2002 action horror movie that was the debut film of British director Neil Marshall, who would later go on to make The Descent, Doomsday, and Centurion. He also made that disappointing Hellboy movie from 2019, but nobody's perfect. If you're not familiar with him, Marshall specializes in low to mid-budget horror, sci-fi, and action movies that at their best have the gritty enthusiasm of the early works of guys like Sam Raimi and John Carpenter, just with a more British flavor to them. Imagine if Ash Williams and Snake Plissken used words like bollocks and you're on the right track. Picking Dog Soldiers for a first film was a smart move for Marshall. Since the 90s were full of vampire movies and zombies have been big since the 2000s, what better way to stand out from the pack than with a werewolf film? And if that doesn't work, you could always make a Frankenstein soldier movie. Anyway, we open in Scotland, a place where even people on camping trips look like train spotting extras. Also, they apparently give each other mini Highlander swords as anniversary gifts.
It's perfect.
Yeah, and it's also solid silver, so don't lose it.
Hey, good thing this isn't called Mummy Soldiers, or else you wouldn't be able to use that as a weapon later. Alright, now that the gift-giving's out of the way, time for some pasty, damp tent fucking. Let's see, people in a tent about to bang at the beginning of a horror movie? I see nothing going wrong here. See, this is why I hate camping. I don't like pooping in the woods or getting murdered by a wild animal. We're now in Wales, and I think somebody slipped a British version of Surviving the Game into my werewolf movie. Actually, this is a training exercise for the military. British Special Forces are so badass, even a flashlight is a deadly weapon to them.
Nice try, Cooper. You evaded capture for 22 hours and 47 minutes.
Wait a second, Liam Cunningham and Kevin McKidd are in this movie? Damn, I don't know what HBO series to reference first. And yes, I'm pointing out that Kevin McKidd was in Rome. I don't care if more people know him from Grey's Anatomy. This is Private Cooper, who's trying out for a Special Forces team led by Captain Ryan, who has some, unorthodox training methods.
Yeah, shoot the dog.
I'm sorry, sir, what?
You don't have a choice. Finish the job, shoot the dog.
Shoot it!
I'll bet he's totally the hero. Instead of shooting the dog, wait and see if this movie has a Kenny in it and then shoot that. Well, Cooper didn't make it into the Italian exploitation movie forces. Guess he'll just have to go back to his old squad. 4 weeks later and Cooper's participating in another combat exercise. This one's gonna end with him being asked to disembowel a squirrel with his combat knife. And this brings me to one of the best parts of any British horror movie, British curse words.
Joe, for fuck's sake, get off your big fat lardy ass and make like a soldier.
Nice work, Spoon, you tosser.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
And you'll be taking my boot out your mouth in a minute, Joe, you baldy twat.
Special Forces, you plonker. Well, bollocks to him.
Yeah, you gotta love any country where cunt can be used as an endearing term. I guess it's time I introduce our other characters. In addition to Cooper, there's Sergeant Wells, Kirkley, Milburn, Campbell, and,
Yeah, Spoonie.
Oh, smart.
Spoonie, huh? Well, I guess I could reference another internet personality here, but, I don't feel like mentioning Darkside Phil.
Now, if we do happen to make a contact, I expect nothing less than gratuitous violence from the lot of you.
Oh, don't worry, it's a Neil Marshall movie, so there's gonna be plenty of that. We also learned they're using blanks for this particular exercise, but since it's a werewolf movie and silver bullets aren't standard issue for the British Army, it doesn't really matter anyway. I got even more bad news, fellas. I think you're being watched by a rival paintball team. Before we get to the werewolf action, how about a little character development from Sergeant Wells?
We were making a regular sweep along the Iraqi border, and Eddie, poor fucker, triggered an anti-tank mine. Just bits and pieces of him. It's all that remained. This big fucking red circle, 100 meters.
I am in a world of shite. Okay, I joke, but this speech the Sarge gives is actually pretty memorable and is delivered very effectively by Sean Pertwee. And it's little moments like these that help raise this movie above your typical werewolf flick. But because this is a horror movie, that means this scene has to end like this.
Then he looks back at the dog, and to his surprise, the dog turns around.
Fucking cow!
Why do British military exercises always seem to involve randomly killing an animal?
These aren't entry wounds. More like teeth marks.
Oh, well, there's your explanation. A T-Rex must have dropped it. Captain Ryan's in these woods too, and I think he's being stalked by a film school version of the Predator. That's for the dog, asshole. Bad news, fellas. The Special Forces team you were supposed to be training against is dead. Good news, you've got some fresh blood sausage for dinner tonight. Not to mention real weapons, so now you can kill even more animals. And of course, Liam Cunningham isn't dead. He was one of the only Game of Thrones characters to actually make it until the end.
There was only supposed to be one. There was only supposed to be one.
I agree. They should have never made that sequel to The Descent. The rest of Ryan's team was killed by werewolves, and they really shouldn't be surprised. In Scotland, the woods always look like you're about to get eaten on the way to Grandma's house. And the werewolves aren't the only danger out here. Well, it's no fun if you just kill yourself. And when I mentioned that there was definitely going to be gratuitous violence earlier, boy was I not kidding. Good news, Sarge, you're alive. Bad news, you're probably gonna need to be fitted for a colostomy bag when we get back. Wait a second, Special Forces soldiers getting chased through the woods by dog monsters? Haven't I seen this before?
Joseph!
No! Don't go!
Alright, this movie is way better than a Resident Evil cutscene. Or any of the movies for that matter. Oh, thank God, a Jeep. Now you can just run the fuckers over and not tell their owners. But I suppose more gratuitous violence works too.
What happened?
What happened? We were attacked by huge fucking howling things, that's what!
You were lucky I found you.
Yeah, that was lucky. What were you doing out here?
I heard gunfire last night. I knew someone was out there.
I too drive towards gunfire I hear in the woods. They decide to hole up in a local farmhouse. That way the movie can become Night of the Living Dog.
Nobody home?
I don't know where they could be.
I don't know. It's a cottage in the middle of the woods of Scotland. They probably got baked into a pie by a witch or something. Either that or they were about to sit down to a nice dinner of bread and broth and got scared away when someone brought a bottle of hot sauce. The woman who rescued them is Megan, a zoologist who was studying in the area. She was actually hoping to find a leprechaun, but didn't know there's a difference between Scotland and Ireland. Okay, let's see. The car's fucked and the house is surrounded. Looks like we got all the elements for a siege movie. And don't worry about the werewolves. They can't come in unless you invite them through the doggy door.
So what are we talking about here? Wolves?
Not entirely wolf. Nor all human, but something in between.
So is this gonna be one of those movies where they don't actually say the word werewolf? I mean, The Walking Dead calls zombies walkers. What word are they gonna use here, rovers?
You know what this reminds me of? Rorke's Drift.
There's Zulu, Night of the Living Dead, Evil Dead. This does borrow from a lot of movies, but as long as it's done well, that's all that matters. And speaking of other movies...
Shot controlled bursts!
But stay frosty.
Now that the werewolves have been kept at bay, better patch up Sarge.
I'm sure you should be chasing painkillers with whiskey.
Hey, don't tell him how to self-medicate. He literally just spilled his guts out.
This geezer here, right? He's my best mate. I'll tell you what, I love him. I love you!
Oh shit, Sarge is so drunk he's in I love you man mode. If he keeps going like this, he's gonna wake up in that bed next to one of the werewolves. Cooper, however, is still skeptical werewolves exist, which is weird considering what he's seen so far. And the other guys don't seem to believe it either.
Lycanthropes.
You what?
Think about what you've seen and heard. The full moon, the teeth, the claws, the howling.
Ooh, I hope it's the Howling too. That way we'll get a Sybil Danning werewolf. Another question that needs answering, just what the hell was Ryan doing there?
If I could tell you, I would. But I'm just a soldier. Like you.
Hey, you can't fool me. You're no typical soldier. Your line reading is way more dramatic. They also find out Ryan's wounds have almost completely healed, which means he's clearly been bitten by a wolverine. And I know I already made an Aliens reference, but...
They shut down the generator.
Why would they do that?
How could they cut the power, man? They're animals.
As far as the references go, Neil Marshall is on record saying he purposefully put in lines and homages to other movies, even admitting that he might have gone a little overboard with them. And while the movie definitely takes inspiration from stuff like Night of the Living Dead, Assault on Precinct 13, Southern Comfort, and a ton of other movies, the important thing is that Marshall's able to take all of these influences and put his own stamp on them so the movie doesn't seem like a ripoff. After all, how many siege movies involving werewolves can you name? And again, you can't go wrong with some gratuitous violence.
Cheers, mate.
Another thing, for a relatively low-budget movie, the werewolf costumes and effects are actually pretty cool, even if it does kind of look like they're on stilts some of the time. You know, if this movie were made in the 80s, we get a 5-minute transformation sequence before the werewolves actually started attacking.
Dogs. More like pussies.
That's for that joke, asshole.
Those things out there are real. You may never get another night's sleep as long as you live.
So why worry, Cooper? You may not live that long.
Okay, have you guys considered that maybe Ryan's also a werewolf? I mean, even if he isn't, he does seem to have come down with a serious case of bad guy face. Oh, and there's also a plot point about Megan and Ryan previously knowing each other? I don't know. Neil Marshall said this was basically forced on him by the producers and that he thought it was unnecessary, and I gotta say I agree with him. Anyway, Megan says there's another Jeep in the barn that they could try and hotwire and make a break for it. Not sure if that's a good idea, though. Going for a vehicle usually doesn't turn out well in these kinds of movies. First, though, they'll need a distraction.
Come on, have a go if you think you're not enough!
Hey, good idea. Distract him by playing fetch with a flare. And if that doesn't work, you could always fuck with him by pretending to throw a tennis ball. Hopefully the werewolves notice the flare. They only seem to be able to see in Jim Jarmusch movie vision. The plan does work and they get the car started. Unfortunately, the barn is also where they store more gratuitous violence. I feel like there's a soundbite I'm supposed to play for that part.
Damn, look at them titties!
I'm sure that was probably it. And that's why the werewolves were in the barn. They were hotboxing the Jeep.
I'm gonna fucking have you!
Ugh, if the Jeeps are rockin', don't come a-knockin'. God damn it, I told you not to come a-knockin'! Well, they lost another squad member, but you know what would make this situation better? A little music. I guess it'd be a little too on the nose if she started playing Werewolves of London. While you're planning your next move with the werewolves, you might want to interrogate Captain Ryan since his eyebrows seem to be getting more evil by the second.
Now, Joe, you remember Joe? He missed the most important match of his life for this bullshit exercise, and now he's dead.
Too fucking right it's relevant!
You just can't get past the dog, can you?
Well, it was a very effective way to show that you're a dick early in the movie. Seriously, Liam Cunningham plays such an effortless slimeball in this movie, I kinda wish he played a villain in Game of Thrones, too.
He's given the choice of taking orders from a toffee-nosed twat like you and slogging it out with these guys. I'll take the underdogs anytime.
Again, you really gotta love British curse words. I mean, I don't even really know what toffee-nosed twat means, but sounds like a good insult. Ryan reveals that he was sent to try and capture one of the werewolves to see if it could possibly be used for military purposes, and Cooper's squad was supposed to be the bait. Well, so far that part seems to be going according to plan. Oh, and here's a big surprise. Ryan's turning into a werewolf. Listen, we don't have the budget for a big transformation sequence, so you'll just have to do it off screen. Okay, fellas, what exactly do you think you're gonna find there? Holy shit, it's a werewolf! Okay, the whole hiding behind furniture and popping up as a werewolf might seem like a bit of a cheat, but Marshall thought using a CGI morphing effect would look cheesy, and if other werewolf movies are any indication, yeah, I think he made the right choice there. Oh, and if anyone was wondering just whose house this is...
Werewolves spend most of their time in human form, right? And the only people for miles around live right here.
So these things aren't about to give up the fight and go home?
They are home.
Oh, well no wonder they're trying to kill you. You're trespassing in their house. As long as they have a license to be werewolves, this just falls under Scotland's stand your ground law.
No wonder they're pissed off.
But they're good people. They're kind people.
Yeah, sure. Whatever you say, Megan. Okay, new plan. Megan says the werewolves are probably gathered in the barn, so time to shove this fuel tank into their mouths and blow them up like the end of Jaws. And I gotta say, Sarge is looking pretty spry considering he had his guts ripped out a few hours ago. Oh, right. The werewolf thing.
What happened to Ryan is happening to me. You know, Coop, there's one more thing you gotta learn about command, mate. Sometimes the people that you kill are your own men.
Alright, Sean Pertwee, you already had one great speech in this movie, so don't get greedy, okay? Besides, Sarge, you can't die yet. We still need your help blowing up the werewolves.
Lighten!
Alright, Alright, not quite as cool as flicking a cigarette and lighting the fuel, but still pretty badass. Alright, you blew up the barn. Hopefully these aren't Monster Squad werewolves and they can just piece themselves back together again. However, there's a bit of a snag.
There is no house in the next glen.
No,
And there were no werewolves in the barn when it blew.
not one.
And the reason you're not in the photographs because you took it.
That's right, Megan's a werewolf. And considering she's the only one around for miles besides the werewolves, they really should have seen this coming. Alright, the whole twist with Megan being a werewolf and betraying them may not exactly be that surprising. But come on, we had to get to a big action climax somehow. As long as that's exciting, I don't really care how we got there. If you're wondering why Megan's only starting to transform now instead of right when the full moon came out along with the others, I don't know. They never really explain that part. Bitch. Also, did that kill her or not? Other than Silver, I'm not really sure how you take these things down. Due to the limited budget, they were only able to make 3 werewolf costumes, even though there's supposed to be more than that. But to the movie's credit, you never really notice that there's never more than 3 of them on screen at a time, which just goes to show how you can overcome a lack of money through camera work and editing. I'm also not an expert on werewolf weaknesses, but I'm pretty sure one of them isn't bare-knuckle boxing. Come on, Spoon, try something else.
You fucking
Damn, I get the feeling that if the werewolves hadn't shown up, Spoon would have just slaughtered everyone. Use the silverware, you idiot! Well, Spoon may have lost, but at least he goes out with a one-liner.
I hope I give you the shits, you fucking wimp.
Ah, come on, British food's too bland to give him the shits. Speaking of shits, even if they end up dying, at least they can leave the werewolves and upper decker in their toilet before getting eaten. All said, this final assault is actually pretty exciting, although it does sometimes rely on shaky cam a little too much.
Let's get the wardrobe, son.
Good idea. Maybe there's a passage to Narnia in there you can escape through. Or that works too.
Where's Spoon?
There is no spoon.
I could make a Matrix reference here, but considering that's literally what that line was supposed to be, do I really need to? Alright, enough screwing around. Time to take out these werewolf fucks once and for all. And since Sarge is about to be one of them, that means he gets to have one final badass moment. Of course Sarge manages to take him out. Which also makes this the second movie I've done in a row where a guy blows up a house using an oven. So now all the werewolves are dead. I think. Other than Silver, I'm not really sure how you kill these things. But wait a second, what about Captain Ryan?
Ryan, you tried licking your own balls yet? I forgot. You don't fucking have any.
Hey, how dare you bring up his neutering? You know that's a sore subject for him. And speaking of sore things... Ugh. You know, out of all the gore in this movie, I think that part's the most uncomfortable. Luckily for Cooper, first rule of filmmaking, don't set up a silver dagger in the first act unless you plan on using it in the third.
I think it's all over. It is now.
Okay, so I guess instead of a silver bullet, the werewolf's weakness in this movie is silver and a bullet? Good work, Cooper. Unfortunately, because you didn't complete your training exercise, you're going to be dishonorably discharged when you get back. Actually, while a lot of horror movies never bother to show you what happens after the main events, this one actually does. During the credits, it's revealed that despite providing photographic evidence, no one believes Cooper's story and it only gets printed as a blurb in a trashy tabloid. Alright, well I guess that's better than going to jail for murdering all his squad mates. Well, Dog Soldiers did reasonably well at the box office and got a lot of positive buzz in the UK. In North America, the movie made its debut on the Sci-Fi Channel, which I guess in a weird way would qualify it as easily the greatest Sci-Fi Channel movie ever made. Despite not getting a big theatrical release, though, in the years since, Dog Soldiers has built up a considerable cult following, and rightly so. For a debut feature, Neil Marshall shows a ton of skill and energy here, and it's no surprise he went on to greater acclaim with The Descent. It's a simple premise, but it works. Take a time-worn horror concept like werewolves, update it for a more modern audience, and make sure the action and gore keep flowing till the end. Despite the low budget, the werewolf suits are pretty cool, and the movie wisely avoids overusing cheesy CGI effects that would have seriously dated the movie. What really helps it stand out, though, are the actors, especially Liam Cunningham and Sean Pertwee, but even the less memorable characters still have some good banter between them. While it definitely takes inspiration and even outright references several older movies, Neil Marshall still manages to mash all these together and put his own stamp on them. For years, a sequel has been rumored to be in development, but as of 2020, it still hasn't come out yet, so for now we'll just have to make do with the original. The movie's had a loyal following in Britain for a while, but for people in other countries who may have heard of it but never given it a chance, check out Dog Soldiers. I am kind of curious to see if that sequel ever gets made. Hopefully they don't make the mistake of setting it in Paris. Well, that's all for now. Until next time.
Knock me out! Hit me! Oh, you fucking pussy, hit me!